Have you ever felt like the world just isn't made for people like you? That no matter how hard you try, you're always one step behind? Well, I've been there. And I want you to hear me clearly today, not as a billionaire, but as someone who's been rejected, laughed at, and underestimated more times than I can count. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hustlers and dreamers, let me share with you something that changed my life forever. One rule, just one. If you forget everything else I say, the failures, the rejections, the green tea, and even Alibaba, remember this one truth. There is only one rule for success. And no, it's not be smart. Because if that were true, I wouldn't be standing here. I failed my university entrance exam not once, not twice, but 3 times. I got rejected from Harvard 10 times. Even KFC turned me down. Yes, you heard right. Kentucky Fried Chicken told me I wasn't crispy enough. So what is this rule? It's simple. Never stop believing in yourself. Say it again with me. Never stop believing. Even when they laugh. Even when they reject you. Even when they say, "Hey Jack, maybe you should just sell potatoes instead of dreaming about tech companies." Believe anyway. I come from a small city. Heyo. No skyscrapers, no spotlight, just bicycles and old ladies shouting at kids for playing football too loud. I wasn't strong. I wasn't fast. I wasn't smart. But I had one thing. I talked. A lot. And I believed in that gift. I believed that if I could tell a story, I could open doors. Every morning at 5 a.m., I got on my bicycle and rode to the HU Hotel. Why? To offer free tours to foreigners. Not for money, just to practice my English. Did I become fluent? No. But I became fluent in confidence, and that's worth even more. Today, I tell young people this. Don't worry if you're not the smartest in the room. Be the most curious. Be the most persistent. Be the most confident. That's how you win. Want to hear something funny and painful? Once, 24 people applied for jobs at KFC. 23 were hired. 1 wasn't. Guess who? Me. Another time, I applied to be a police officer. Out of 5 candidates, 4 were accepted. And who was left out? Me again. The officer said I was too skinny. I joked, maybe I can catch criminals with negotiation skills. But I failed, and failed again. I cried, I doubted myself, but I never stopped believing that I was meant for more. The world won't always clap for you. Sometimes it'll slap you. When that happens, don't get angry. Smile and say, "Thanks, I needed that." Now watch me rise. In 1999, I called 17 of my friends to my small apartment. I said, "We're going to build a global internet company." One of them looked at me and said, "Jack, none of us can code." I replied, "Perfect, neither can I." Another said, "We have no money." I said, "Exactly. That's why we must start." And that's how Alibaba was born. Not from money, not from brilliance, but from courage, vision, and pure craziness. I told them, if we work hard and don't give up, maybe one day we'll make $1 million. Today, Alibaba is worth hundreds of billions. I was wrong. Beautifully, gloriously wrong. Here's the truth. You don't need all the answers. You just need one thing: belief. Believe that your future is greater than your fear. Back then, we didn't even know how to build a website. I found a friend who knew how to turn on a computer and said, "Congrats, you're our head of technology." That's what faith looks like. Sometimes you don't wait for the expert. You become the expert through desperation. Let me tell you something schools never teach. Success isn't about being the best. It's about being the last one standing. Remember Nokia? Once the king of mobile phones. Now, people use them to kill mosquitoes. Why? Because they stopped growing. They got comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you stop being hungry. But me, I was always hungry. Hungry to learn. Hungry to grow. And yes, sometimes just hungry because I didn't have lunch money. When people said, "Jack, your idea will never work," I smiled and said, "Good. That means I'm onto something." Here's your golden rule. The more they laugh, the more you smile. The more they doubt you, the louder you say, "Thank you." Because the moment you believe them, you lose. But if you believe in you, everything changes. And as I said, success doesn't come from being the best. It comes from standing back up when others stay down. That belief carried me through what came next. In the year 2000, I flew to the heart of global tech, Silicon Valley, full of hope and ready to raise funding for Alibaba. I met with 30 venture capitalists. 30! Guess how many decided to invest? 0. Not one. No interest, no support, not even a free cup of coffee. They looked at me and said, "Jack, you're from China. You don't understand the internet." I looked back and said, "Maybe not, but I understand people, and people want opportunity." They laughed in my face. Today, I'm the one laughing. Not out of pride, but out of perseverance. Don't be afraid to look like a fool for your dreams. Every successful person has looked crazy at some point. Einstein? His hair looked like lightning struck him. Steve Jobs wore the same black shirt every single day. And me? I had broken English and PowerPoint slides from 1997. But guess what? We all had in common? We believed in something. Ourselves. Every rejection I faced made me stronger. Rejection to me is free education. The more I heard no, the more creative I became in finding ways to get a yes. So here's my advice to you. If the bank says no, build your own bank. If school says you failed, learn from YouTube. If your crush calls you ugly, get rich. Suddenly, you're charming. Rejection isn't the end. It's the beginning of innovation. When I first launched Alibaba, the question everyone asked me was, "Jack, how will you compete with eBay?" You see, back then, eBay was a giant, a global titan with deep pockets, cutting-edge technology, and the trust of international markets. And here I was, a skinny Chinese man with no tech background, no money, and a company running out of my tiny apartment in Hangzhou. But I smiled and said, "I'm not here to beat eBay. I'm not building Alibaba to fight them. I'm building Alibaba to serve people, not global investors, not Silicon Valley elites, but the small businesses in China, the farmers, shopkeepers, and local sellers who needed a platform to grow, to connect, to survive." Success doesn't come from focusing. on your competitors. It comes from focusing on your customers. While other companies were busy calculating how to dominate each other, I asked a different question. How can I help the people who've been ignored for too long? Ask yourself that. Who are you helping? What problem are you solving? How can you make someone's life better? Not someday, but today. Because when you focus on people, something magical happens. Trust is built. Value is created. Loyalty is earned. And when that happens, everything else follows. The money, the recognition, even the haters. Yes, haters are a good sign. If they're watching, you're doing something worth noticing. So, don't waste your energy on your competition. Let them watch. Let them copy. You? Stay focused on your purpose. Focus on your people. Real, meaningful success will come, often when you least expect it. A lot of people think success is about money, fame, private jets. But to me, success is much simpler. Can you sleep peacefully at night? Are you proud of what you built? Did you help others along the way? If the answer is yes, then congratulations. You are successful. But all of this starts with one thing. Never stop believing in yourself. Even when you fail 100 times. Even when chickens reject you at KFC. Even if your English is broken, your wallet is empty, your nose is too big, and your coding skills are non-existent. Still believe. The world doesn't need perfect people. Yes, it needs stubborn dreamers. One day, I was at a business conference, surrounded by passionate young people with big dreams and empty pockets. After my talk, a young man ran up to me, nearly tripping over the mic cord, and said, Jack Ma, I want to be rich like you. What should I do? He had that spark, part hope, part panic, that I've seen in many young entrepreneurs. I smiled and said, it's simple. Start a company. Solve a real problem. Make people's lives better. And don't give up. He blinked. That's it? Yes, I said. But it won't be easy. It takes time, effort, patience, and a little craziness. He scratched his head, hesitated, and then asked, is there a faster way? I paused, leaned in, and said with a straight face, yes, marry my daughter. He burst out laughing. He thought I was joking. I didn't laugh. He looked confused. Wait, are you serious? I said. Well, if you're not ready to build something yourself, at least build a relationship with someone who did. We both laughed in the end, but my point was clear. Too many people want shortcuts. They want success like they want fast food. Cheap, instant, no effort. But true success doesn't work that way. Real wealth doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from solving hard problems, staying strong in hard seasons, and growing into someone capable of handling success. So unless you plan to marry into wealth, which I don't recommend, then start building today. It's slower, it's harder, but it's worth it. Now let me leave you with a challenge. Not the kind where you try to dress like Jack Ma, talk like Jack Ma, or become Jack Ma. No, no, no. The world doesn't need another Jack Ma. One is enough. I'm already causing enough trouble. What the world needs is you. The most authentic, bold, unstoppable version of yourself. You don't need to be perfect. Perfect people are boring. They're like robots with great hair. What you need is persistence. The kind that keeps showing up. That stands back up after failing 10 times in a row. You don't need $1 million to begin. You don't need investors, or an office, or a Harvard degree. Remember, Harvard rejected me 10 times. What you need is mindset. The mindset that says, okay, I fell, but I'm still in the game. So do me a favor. Write this down. Stick it on your wall. Put it on your mirror. Set it as your phone wallpaper. Tattoo it on your brain. One rule for success. Believe in yourself, especially when it feels stupid. Because one day, the same people who laughed, ignored, and doubted you will clap for you, ask for your secrets, and say they always believed in you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for dreaming. And remember, just because a chicken rejected you at KFC doesn't mean the world won't crave your flavor. Stay spicy. Stay weird. Stay you.